Good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. This is all about getting more out of TM1Py. We started off with a tutorial on TM1Py series, hoping to get people starting with TM1Py. Remove the fear, get more value, get up and running quickly. That's what it's all about. And recently, there's been a new version of TM1Py that's out in the marketplace. So, Marius, the creator of TM1Py, has graced us with his presence to explain some of the features and talk through some of the exciting stuff of TM1Py himself. Hello!
Thanks. Glad to be on the show.
Good morning, good evening, good morning, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. 9 o'clock.
First up, have you seen the TM1Py series that we put out before? It was back in December. I know that's a while back.
Oh, yes, I have. It's interesting stuff.
All right, got your stamp of approval.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you can talk to me after this call. Well, great to have you. Now, before we jump in, a disclaimer, which is all the opinions that we're going to state here in this call and this conversation is purely based on mine and Marius' experience and our own thoughts only. It doesn't represent the position of who we work for, who we work with, our friends and family. All right, so leave them out of this. It's just me and Marius having a chat because we love this stuff. All right, so now with that out of the way, before we get into the features, Marius, how are people doing with TM1Py? What has been your experience so far?
There's a lot of stuff happening, right? There's the new release that came out at the beginning of this year, 1.6, with some big new features. I'm sure you want to talk about that later. Then we've got since the January release, we've also added some new features. To be able to create audit logs, for instance. Some improvements around connectivity to Power BI. Some good stuff. And also, we're currently doing interesting projects with TM1Py, right? Customers that have needs that go beyond the default scope of TM1. They tend to use TM1Py now. So we're doing some interesting projects these days, for instance, to bring data into a data lake, from a cube into a data lake, or from a TM1 cube into a Google Sheet, or vice versa. So these kind of connectivity topics happening a lot this year, right? And I think the entire IT enterprise IT architecture is opening up a bit, and things are starting to grow together. And I think the REST API and TM1Py in that regard is helping in that development.
Right. I know since last year, I guess the same time last year, back February, March 2020, to now, a lot of things happen in the marketplace, but I guess more importantly, in terms of what, in relation to TM1Py, do you think things have changed? Like the requirements have changed, or how people perceive these two tools are now different?
I think from looking at TM1Py, it has grown a lot, and it has also, I think it has received a lot of attention and acceptance in the community. It's a bit hard to quantify that, right? I couldn't give you any numbers, but if you look at the project, how it develops, how people get involved, how people talk about it, promote it, we're seeing more acceptance in the broader TM1 world. So that's definitely changed a bit.
All right. And for the people that you work with, have they just been all complimentary? Or are they going, oh, I wish you made it easier and add more features into this?
Oh, I think they, yes and no, you know. I mean, people always want it easier, right?
Yeah, of course.
You know, when we go out to companies, help them with TM1Py, sometimes they struggle a bit in the beginning, but after a few weeks, latest, they don't really need us anymore, right? TM1Py is also it's not that complex neither. You can wrap your head around it in a week or two, I think. And in terms of features, we rarely get requests for new features. It's pretty feature complete, and more typically we get questions, right? Where is this feature? How does it work? But not, I wish TM1Py could delete a cube. Right? You can delete a cube if you want.
All right.
It's not that so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, have anyone ever asked you, hey, when is that GUI for TM1Py going to come out?
No.
Where's that drag and drop? No?
No, glad not. No.
That's great. So I guess I'm going to have to cross that one off the list for the being one of the new features in TM1Py 1.6 then.
Yeah, you do.
No drag and drop. Duh. All right. Well, okay. Thanks for indulging me. All right. So, what are some new features that you're super excited about in terms of the new version? So you mentioned a couple of things.
Typically, what most people do with TM1Py is to deal with data. So they're trying to get data out and do something, and get data back in, or connect to a different data source, like Salesforce, SAP. With Python, connect to that and bring data into TM1. And this is probably 80% of the use cases that we do with people. And so for that, we try to help. The majority of these people we were trying to help. For instance, we added faster write speed, so that now if you're writing from Python to TM1 through TM1Py, your data comes to the cube faster. So that's a massive help.
Even faster. So what kind of speed are we talking about?
I would say almost on par with TI. It's the thing, yeah.
Okay.
Like the thing is, TI is God in the system, right? TI is security agnostic. TI is really fast when it comes to writing to a cube, and the REST API never caught up with it. Unfortunately, the REST API is great, and it does many things faster than TI, like updating dimensions, for instance. It is in many ways better than TI, but when it comes to like pure, straight writing data to a cube, TI was still king. And we now with some tricks, TM1Py is trying to catch up, and I think we're getting there slowly.
Are you allowed to say what they are, or is that a secret?
Oh, it's not a secret. It's just open source, right? Anyone who wants to know, he can look it up. So we're using unbound processes. They are processes that only exist for the scope of the execution, and then we essentially just put cell put n or cell increment n statements into those unbound processes, and that's very fast.
You've heard it here first. I don't think Marius has his own podcast, so you've heard it here first. That's great. Okay.
And there's more,
okay.
John. There's even more.
Do tell.
Okay, like you know that lots of people, they like to use the pandas data frames when they get data out of TM1 or back in, and we've added better support, so that now if you have a pandas data frame in Python, right, and you do something with it, like time series forecasting, or just calculate some standard deviations or some measures, and then to get it back at the cube. In the previous versions, you would have to transform it yourself in Python. Like you would have to bring the data frame into a structure that TM1Py understands, and then TM1Py sends it to the cube. And now, if you have a data frame that matches where the columns match the dimensions of the cube, you can just send the data frame straight to the cube. And that's really helpful. It saves a lot of code and effort.
Something that we can have to add to the tutorial later. All right. Okay. Well, that's great. Anything else?
Some little things like try to make it more easy to update hierarchies. So add some features to just make it easier to query hierarchies and add elements to hierarchies, add components. Like we never really had an equivalent to a dimension component add, right? That you insert an element as a child to a consolidation. So in TM1Py, you would have to first create the element and then create the connection between parent and child. So we have to just try to add little things to help the people to use it better and easier. And of course, one of the bigger enhancements is support for integrated security mode 3.
That's a good one. Now, I've read somewhere about impersonation.
Oh, oops, I forgot about that. Oh, that's a bit
Is that a secret feature I shouldn't be asking you about?
Not at all, no. It's, I thought you're saving it for later. No,
well, we can save it for later. Well, for the people who don't know what that is, maybe you can give us a quick overview.
Like, imagine you are an admin, right? And you wanted to know how Alice from the sales team or John from HR, how they perceive the TM1 system, right? If they log in, what do they see? What cubes do they see? What data do they see? What processes do they see? And impersonation allows you to do that. So you could write a script, a TM1Py script, that logs into TM1 with your admin credentials, but you could say, I want to see everything as Alice sees it. And that is very powerful because it allows you to test in an automated way, right? It's we've already actually done projects with it for customers who want to have like an automated testing to make sure that the people from the HR department, they can see the HR cubes, but no one else, for instance. Or no users should be able to write to closed periods. These simple kind of tests you can implement in an automated way through impersonation.
I have spent lots of boring hours testing who can see what.
Yeah.
Just to realize, I've tested 200 cases, but didn't test one other one. And then that one, of course, is someone's boss. They can see the data. So absolutely, I can see what you're getting at. Now, I guess what you're also saying then is for impersonation that allows people to do batched and scripted procedural type of testing, which is, I guess, more IT centric. People would really love this. You've got a matrix that they have already. Now you're just coding them in to your script and then testing everything. So I guess what it's going to fire off is it's going to go to this cube. It's going to try to go to this particular area in the cube, test whether I can access that particular combination of elements being selected in the subsets, and then can I read? Can I write? Yeah,
absolutely.
And then it comes back with some result. So which means you can automate lots and lots and lots and lots of different permutations and combinations in one go. Yeah,
exactly.
Does that right?
It's exactly
or
that.
I'm just like saying random stuff.
No. And you mentioned that it's typically the IT department that drives it, right? And that demands or asks for automated tests. But ultimately, it benefits the end users, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, ultimately, we don't want to bother Alice to test the TM1 security, especially not after every change. I think she wouldn't appreciate it if we ask her every time. But she should, right? It should.
That's right.
It should be tested every time, and this is the real. Like everyone gets value out of it, and the guys who runs the TM1 system, they also get value out of automated security tests because they'll have a better sleep, right? If they know their system is secure and auditable, that'll make them much more comfortable.
Yes, and that's another good point that you've touched on. I mean, when we say IT in this case is usually end up being in IT's plate because they are responsible for the systems or application support to make sure people can see the right information. However, like you say, a lot of the time it shouldn't be an IT's responsibility. It just ends that way because a lot of end users, maybe they don't know how to test it, or the admin just don't have the time capacity, because in this case they might be owned by a business and they've got 2-day jobs already. Can't possibly add a third one for security testing every time they roll out something, so it ends up being IT / other people. So in this case, we are really giving the power to the people. IT can absolutely still do it, and the end users can too. Now we make a whole thing simpler, more streamlined, more repeatable, right? Automating, getting the computer to do all the things that it's good at, and then we add value on top of what the computer can't do out of the box.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've oversimplified it, so I apologize to everyone. I've just offended with my last statement.
Sandboxes, so that TM1Py allows you to create sandboxes, delete them, update them, and also if you retrieve data or if you write data to a cube, you can always provide a sandbox. Like when you execute an MDX, you can always decide, does it go to base or does it go to a special sandbox? So yeah, that's
So essentially what you're saying is now people are able to do their forecast. So let's say they do an allocation. Actually, let's jump off forecast for a bit. I'm thinking about allocations, I don't know why, but if someone's doing an allocation right now, you could use the functionality inside TM1Py to write the results straight to a sandbox.
Yeah, absolutely.
To analyze, to review before you commit them back into the base version.
Absolutely.
And vice versa, I guess. Yeah, so you can do it both ways because it's just something you can reference. Very cool. What's taking you so long? No, I'm kidding. All right, that's really cool. Another question that I do want to ask you is your position or your view on the openness of different API, well, the meaning of API. Different tools have a different meaning for API. Some tools they do a lot, some tools they don't, but they all, I guess, advertise it the same way. Our tool have integration with X. Sure. Now, to give you a little bit more context into that, so you know what I'm rambling on about, is the other day I was talking to someone who's looking for a planning system, and essentially those individuals were quite confused about the difference of what, for example, TM1 can do with the Turbo Integrator versus another tool that supposedly has an API, because they just didn't know better, and it sounds the same. Yeah, so I mean, in this case, let's wrap that one up. So in this case, Turbo Integrator is the full ETL tool that can do all sorts of transformation, handling advanced logic, as well as doing the basics. I mean, you don't have to code anything if you didn't want to, right? You could use the wizard, click, 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 data in the queue.
Yeah.
And in half a minute. But if we now take another step back and then relate it to how TM1Py works and the openness of what the REST API for TM1 does, compared to some other web APIs out there who, some are sophisticated, but some are not.
Yeah.
As in, you can just write basic data. You can only read basic data. It's not a full set. Well, anyway, I'm speaking too much because it's my question to you. Yeah, it's not about my view. Like, what do you think about that?
Like, first of all, I think it's an asset that we have. It's essentially two big assets. TI, which is great to move data from one cube to another, to do little transformations, calculations. It's really fast, right? It scales. You can parallelize it. It's great. And whenever we have complexity that goes beyond TI, we have the REST API, which is another massive asset, right? And we have, it's really like, it's a cutting-edge technology that we have in TM1, which I think is partly undervalued. Like as you said, the competitors, they go around and they say, oh, we have an API, you can integrate with everything. And then they say, look at TM1, they only have TI, which is completely untrue. The REST API is great, right? It's super powerful. and it's really it distinguishes TM1 to its competitors, and TM1Py is essentially, it's just the REST API for Python, right? TM1Py, it is the REST API made simple, made for Python. So with TM1 we can totally we can, like, I think we can accept the challenge and say, okay, so you can integrate data, so can we, right? We can do it two ways. We can do it the old school way, bring CSV into a cube, simple as possible, no coding, right? Or if you want to do it the new way, the API way, take the OData compliant REST API, which is an amazing piece of technology, right? And if you want to use Python, which many people do, you even get all the goodness of the REST API combined with the simplicity of Python, and the richness of the Python ecosystem, and then you have TM1Py. So I think TM1 really, how do you say, it doesn't need to be shy about data integration or API at all. That's probably my opinion on that. Yeah.
Well, very politically correct. I like it. No, absolutely, because I mean, in my past life and in my experiences, when you do projects, most of the time, people waste them. Well, not waste, but they spend the most unplanned time dealing with data-related issues. The more power you have to manipulate and manage that data set, the better. I mean, it's only a good thing. And this is without requiring us, or T1Py lovers and T1 practitioners, to install or implement a brand new set of data warehouse or data staging technology with different skill set, right? You actually need people with specialized skill set to get some data out of some of these ETL tools. And I just get so worked up, and as you can see, I'm a little bit passionate about this, about how people get the wrong message about the power of ETL and scripting languages, in this case, what TM1Py has to add. Because, I mean, okay, I have not finished the TM1Py tutorial over on the other side, but for people to get data in and out of TM1 using real case scenarios is so quick compared to setting up new connections, new staging layer, new applications just to do that. And I wish the world would see that as well, without falling over first. I'm sure they'll see it eventually, but there's the painful way and then there's the fun way.
Yeah, like I think you should avoid the middle layer, right? If it's really just a container that data flows through. Some people, they create SQL tables, right, in a little database, just for the data to flow through, and then you have to have someone who maintains it, right? You have 2 scripts instead of one to the database and one out, right? And with Python generally, it allows us to build more direct connectivity. I think we should skip the middle layer whenever possible. Keep it straightforward, keep it simple. Low code, right? Low maintenance. Ultimately, we're saving costs and time. Direct access.
And more fun.
It is also more fun, yeah. I mean, who likes to build SQL tables and SQL queries?
Yeah. Can't skip that part. I mean, SQL table was fun for me when I was at uni. When I was learning SQL, that was really fun. Like, oh, what's this? That's so much data. That was 20 years ago. Now that's not fun. Yeah, Python is fun. But anyway, okay, we digress. Okay, no, that's very good. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that one. Okay, now I know you've got to go. Thanks for talking to us. But there's a couple of more questions I want to ask, and you don't have to answer. Yeah. Okay. So the first one is, if someone was getting into T1Py, which is the audience of what I'm targeting with my T1Py tutorial series, what would you recommend? Like a couple of features or 2-3 features that you think, hey, if you don't check that out, you're going to be missing out. Or, just a high value, low effort type of features you think people should get into? And this is for the context of people who don't know TM1Py very well, right? Don't know Python well.
I think the first thing to look into is to retrieving and writing data. So in TM1 there are different functions, different ways to get data out of TM1. So you can write tm1.cells. And then if you have autocompletion, you'd see 20 or 30 functions like execute view data frame, execute view values, execute MDX data frame. They're just different functions to get data from a view or MDX. I think this is the most important. How do you get data, and also what like functions does TM1Py offer you to get data in different shapes? Do you want it as a data frame, or do you want it as a dictionary or a list? So that's really important.
So for
really
beginners,
valuable.
which one would you recommend? Because you mentioned there's like 20 different functions.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if you were teaching my son how to do T1Py, Levi, go read. Would it be?
It's different. Like some people, for some people data frames are very intuitive because it's a tabular format with columns and rows. So like I personally I like the built-in Python data structures like dictionaries, lists. I really like those. But a lot of people who are not Pythonistas, they would probably feel more familiar with data frames. So maybe go check out execute view data frame, execute MDX data frame. I think the second thing you should check out is the built-in standard data types in Python, because we use them everywhere inside TM1Py, and it's important to be familiar with the data types like lists, tuples, sets, and dictionaries. That's like the four common data types in Python, and then data frames go on top.
Right.
But lists, tuples, sets, dictionaries, go check them out. They're very useful and good to know.
Nice one. I wish I knew that 2 years ago as well. So now you know, for you lucky YouTube servers. Okay, all right, that's great. Now what about one feature for the expert? So you just dropped T1Py 1.6. So for the people who already know the basics, what do you reckon?
Yeah. Okay. Like I think something that's really cool and very valuable is if you connect to two TM1 instances in the same Python script, you know, because we're not in TI anymore. We can connect to 2, 3, or 10 instances, and you can get a dimension or a cube view from one instance, and then send it to another one. Like move a dimension or a subset or a view, and you figure out that you can do this in 3-4 lines of code. So that's something you should check out, I think.
I just had a thought based on what you said. So because now impersonation is possible, so essentially you could now move private view subsets and private objects between different instances.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Cool. All right.
That's so cool.
To wrap up, thanks for joining us. Because this is the first time you've joined this channel to talk about T1Py. Thank you. And knowing that our T1Py tutorial at the moment is talking about cryptos, what do you reckon about cryptocurrency? Yeah.
I think I understand there will only ever be 21 million bitcoins, right? So don't sell them.
Guys, for anyone who's watching, remember the disclaimer at the beginning. This is just our opinion. Yep. Don't go and sell your house and buy bitcoins and blame Marius afterwards. But you're right. Yeah, that's so exciting. And it's just gone so far up, isn't it? I've been using that tool, that script from the Python tutorial to track the daily up and downs of Bitcoin. It's so exciting.
Yeah.
Right? And looking at it, compare this year, doing the 3 month trends. Oh, it's so fascinating.
That's been
And
crazy
that's
12
what
months.
you guys can do with Python TM1. Download all that data and then do meaningful stuff with it. Anyway, thank you so much for your time, Marius, and I had fun. I hope everyone who's watching enjoyed this conversation as well. If you like what you see, like and subscribe, because I would give the feedback back to Marius, of course. And if you have questions and things you want to know, put it down in the comments below. We'll check it out. Well, I will check it out, but Marius might too. But yeah, just know that. Don't expect Marius to answer all your questions in the comments below, but I will try my best. Thank you so much.